Sudanese President Omar Hassan al-Bashir has replaced the head of his Joint Chiefs of Staff with a loyal general who has played a leading role in negotiations with anti-government rebels. Lieutenant General Emaduddin Mustafa Adawi replaces Lieutenant General Mustafa Obeid, who held the position for less than 3 years. Meanwhile, President Bashir has pledged to implement the recommendations of a national dialogue currently underway in Khartoum. Bashir said the recommendations of the Political and Societal Dialogue Conference have offered solutions for the country's problems, accusing external opposition of being funded by Western powers. Bashir added that the national dialogue is not as a result of weakness nor a response to the pressures or dictations, but a political program based on the firm belief of solving the country's problems. Some significant political parties such as the National Ummah Party, the Reform Now movement and the Just Peace Reform approved the process in the beginning but later suspended their participation, criticizing the government's refusal to postpone the general elections and the lack of political freedoms. Now, a Sudanese migrant was shot dead by police in Israel after he stabbed and wounded a soldier on Sunday in an apparent attack of solidarity with Palestinians. The incident comes in the wake of a 4-month-old surge of street violence fueled in part by interreligious clashes between Palestinians and Israelis. Michelle Ngele reports.
This is the scene where 32-year-old Kamal Hassan was shot dead by police after he allegedly stabbed an Israeli soldier. Authorities are now investigating whether the incident near a bus station in the southern city of Ashkelon is part of a wave of Palestinian knife, gun and car ramming attacks that erupted in October. Palestinians have since killed 27 Israelis and a US citizen, while Israeli forces have killed at least 156 Palestinians, most of them assailants.
We are still in the midst of a wave of terror, of a new kind that is not based on terror organization, but is based on general incitement that produces hundreds of thousands of potential suspects. We have many ways and have taken new actions. The one who will be more patient, he who will know how to fight and stand strong for his belief, will be the one to win. We have won many different kinds of terror waves in the past, and we will win this one as well.
The suspect was identified as a Sudanese national, but authorities did not elaborate what he had been doing in Israel. Foreign nationals have not previously participated in such attacks, but thousands of Sudanese have entered Israel illegally through neighboring Egypt in recent years, some seeking work and others asylum. Israel's efforts to repatriate them have been hampered by the fact that it has no ties with Sudan, a predominantly Muslim country. Just recently, a tent used as a synagogue near an Israeli outpost was the target of a suspected arson attack in which several Torah scrolls were burned. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called for an outcry over the desecration of mosques by suspected Jewish militants in recent years.
We are in a difficult struggle between those who seek, like we do, peace and coexistence, and those who seek war and blood. During this weekend, a synagogue named after the 3 teenagers kidnapped and murdered by terrorists was torched. We will do everything needed in order to find them and bring them to trial. But I expect all those who in Israel and abroad rightfully condemn the violation of mosques, graffiti on the mosques, or torching of mosques. I expect them to voice the same cry and the same condemnation over this heinous crime.
If the motive of the attack is confirmed, this would be the first such attack by a foreigner during the 4-month-old surge of Palestinian street violence. Michelle Ngele, KTN News.
The coalition of opposition parties in Djibouti have announced that they will participate in the presidential elections slated for April the 9th. The decision surprised many, since the opposition had said it will not participate in the upcoming elections. According to the coalition, the decision was taken to allow for representation of its 8 parties to participate in the crucial elections at the grassroots level. The coalition also announced they will choose a candidate who will battle it out in the race to become president. The opposition parties have boycotted the last 2 presidential elections due to a political deadlock. Mining executives from across the continent are gathered in South Africa to discuss mining investment in the continent. The conference is being held in the backdrop of an economy built on resources like gold, diamonds and platinum, but one that also faces challenges of policy and regulation.
It is known as the Mining Indaba, a gathering which brings together the leading representatives from the mining investment community. Mining firms in Africa are struggling due to weakening global commodity prices. The price of platinum has fallen about 30% year on year, forcing miners to sell assets and cut production and jobs in South Africa. The World Bank says South Africa's economy will slow to just 0.8% in 2016, weighed down by the uncertainty of a policy, gaps in infrastructure and drought. South Africa's mines are the deepest and among the most dangerous in the world, but industry fatalities have been falling, a trend rooted in improved safety practices and a shrinking labor force as production declines.
The issues of safety, as I've indicated, remains our priority. We are going to work tirelessly to engage with all our stakeholders. That is why we brought names of those primary right holders who were able to adhere to the request and go on a full 12 months without a fatality. We are encouraged by that. We're saying to other right holders, let's follow suit.
Industry players are upbeat that there are better times ahead.
Obviously, we're in a very challenging period. Having said that, I think what you'll see over the course of the year is that companies that have done the hard work, that have gotten their balance sheet in order, will continue to perform nicely even in this reduced commodity market. And on the commodity-specific side, I think what you'll start to see is individual commodities will outperform. I don't see something where there's a tide that rises all ships, but I do think that there are some great opportunities in select minerals and select companies, especially at the valuations that we're seeing today.
Nigeria, the continent's top crude oil producer, is also set to overhaul its mining sector, which has been largely unproductive and dominated by small-scale artisanal miners who comprise around 80% of the industry.
Nobody sees Nigeria as a mining destination. If you ask anyone, they will tell you Nigeria is an oil and gas destination. And they've forgotten that this used to be the coal capital of Africa once. It used to be the tin capital of Africa. Nigeria has one of the largest deposits of limestone and bitumen in Africa. Not to mention precious metals, gemstones, all over the place. But we have to do our duty in order to attract the investors.
Nigeria first started mining activities in 1902 and has at least 44 known minerals including gold, iron ore, tin and coal. Sustainable development through mining has become both a key challenge and primary objective for investors, and countries seeking to benefit from mining must ensure strict policy and adequate infrastructure. Michelle Ngele, KTN News.
For months, Nigeria has been battling corruption in its oil industry that has led to the crippling of the country's economy. The situation is, however, changing as Africa's biggest oil producer is in talks with the World Bank and the African Development Bank about support to help cope with low crude prices, weakening currencies and strained public finances. Ashley Mazuri has more.
After months of battling plunging oil prices that led to the slashing of Nigeria's vital revenues, Africa's biggest oil producer is seeking a $1 billion loan from the African Development Bank to help fund an increased budget deficit. According to Nigeria's Ministry of Finance, the country is planning to borrow as much as $5 billion to help fund a budget deficit due to a slump in vital oil revenues, of which $4 billion might come from international institutions and the rest from Eurobonds. The sharp drop in crude revenues, which provide 95% of foreign earnings, has led to the Naira hitting record lows on the parallel market as foreign exchanges reserves dwindle. Analysts have welcomed the move, saying it will help Nigeria's economy's woe.
First and foremost, is it a good idea to borrow? Yes. Is it a good idea to spend and fund your budget by deficit, thereby stimulating the economy and jump-starting it into growth? Yes. Is it a good idea, or is it efficient to borrow from the multilaterals at concessionary rates? It's an excellent idea. So all told, this is the best way to go for Nigeria. What are we going to use the proceeds of the borrowing for? Important question. The proceeds are going to be used to fund projects within the budget which have lifespans in excess of 1 year.
Despite President Muhammadu Buhari's stand against devaluing the naira, which currently trades at around 197 against the dollar, the World Bank and other institutions like the International Monetary Fund have recommended that Nigeria devalues its currency, which trade officially at a huge premium to the secondary market. According to a written statement by Nigeria's finance ministry, Africa's biggest economy was looking at options to borrow from the African Development Bank and export credit agencies such as China Exim Bank due to their concessionary rates of interest.
A deficit budget funded by concessionary loans from the multilateral agencies is prudent and cost-effective. In other words, you are borrowing at an average rate of 2% or 3% as against market rates of 12%. You're saving Nigeria 900 basis points, right? 9% on almost $4 billion. That is significant.
Analysts expect Nigeria's economy in 2016 to start the slow path to recovery, and in 2017 there will be a consolidation of those gains. The West African country expects a budget deficit of 3 trillion naira in 2016, up from 2.2 trillion naira previously estimated, as a slump in oil revenues which has eroded public finances and hit its currency. Ashley Mazuri, KTN News.